what we've done is we've taken our business.
But it's not always wrong to be the bank when you are the bank.
As long as you're getting paid exactly, are you factoring that in? That is a true cost to the project.
And it's an interesting conversation we're having with the general contractors now, because I've used this term a couple of times with a couple of them and said, I am not being the bank for you. Okay? If you are one day late, I'm going to start charging you 3% a day.
I love it.
And they react to that.
Oh, I bet they do.
And because they understand that we understand what they're doing. And I had a meeting with the CEO and CFO of a $600 million company and laid down the law. And my exposure to them at this point is 220.
But now you're comfortable and you're armed and you go into those conversations.
Lastly, they pay attention when you start coming in with this language. Mm-hmm. Because you said to me, "Oh, you want me to pay you?" And I said, "No, actually, you bang up to date on your payments, and I'm not asking for your payments." I said, "I need to understand how your cash conversion cycle is working on your end, because I need to get paid. And you've had some structural changes and delays, and I need to understand how you're funding those delays and how that cash is actually playing into the business." And he was like, "Wow, okay." He said, "That conversation I wasn't expecting."
Yeah.
But that's because I understand our business.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it just it's a different conversation. You go to a finance organization and you turn up with a P&L and a balance sheet that is strong
and a 3-statement forecast.
And even if it's weak, but you actually understand what's going on and you're able to talk to these things, it's a different conversation.
100%. If you know what's going on, even if you're underperforming, it's a different freaking conversation.
And the finance guys, if you start talking their language and you understand their problem, it's a different conversation. Yeah. And so, but the other thing is just the strength of the documents you produce. If they ask you for a P&L, you give them a really strong P&L, or you give them a P&L which is annotated, and it's annotated from a GNR plan, they'll play ball for sure. Because they understand that you are going to be in the maybe 5% of business owners who understand this stuff.
Yep.
And so it's important to do. And what your bookkeeper and your accountant is going to give you is not going to cut it. Especially when they start asking questions about it. You're going to have a view of it, but you know, we have to talk to the numbers in detail.
Yeah.
And that's a really important distinction, is you now get into financing opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And then if someone's coming to buy you and you can't talk this language, they're going to just take it. I mean, we were talking to a guy and he's gone off and he said, "I've got a full cash offer." And he runs his business on a bunch of spreadsheets, and he's sitting there going, and there's private equity behind it. I'm no, okay, you're about to get absolutely creamed by these guys. Because what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll offer you a big number. And they'll ding you, as we call it, for everything you're not doing right. And every ding is a multiple off the price or a number. And so they say, "We're going to give you $5 million for your business." And then by the time they get to the bottom, you're at $500,000.
Yeah.
And you feel lucky that you're going to get that. And invariably, there's a better deal on the table from somewhere else. But you've got to know this stuff. And again, it's recognizing it doesn't come overnight. I think my financial journey has probably taken, we started working 3 years ago together, 3-4 years ago.
5
years ago?
5.5.
5.5 years ago. And I remember I used to sit down with you and I understood the basics. I could read a P&L at a basic level. But when we got into the cash flow forecasting and difficulties, it was starting to understand 30-week cash flow forecasts and then starting to understand the P&L and how to use debt effectively, correctly, was a big difference. And so the journey for me is taking years to do. Coming into this business, it's taken me probably a year to really understand the business, really understand it, where I can start moving the levers around. And getting the numbers that I need to be able to move those levers. You know, our payroll is very big, and it's a six figures every 2 weeks, and that is a focus of mine. You know, I used to be, you know, we were literally focused on the week of the payroll. Now we're focused on, I'm out in December, January now, in terms of where we're at with that payroll. So I'm looking at each of the payrolls, the cash flow. I know what's going on, and that time just changes the stress level in your life. You know, and we're having to make some decisions about some expenditure, which I can actually say, I know how much float I've got here. And if I take it here, I know I'm going to be okay over there.
Yeah. And
so I'm still, you know, end of January, I'm kind of, okay, I think I know what's going to be going on. But I'm much more comfortable that we're 2 months ahead of it. I remember you saying, you know, when you've got a problem at the end of this week and you go out into the debt market to solve a problem in 5 days, you're going to pay through the nose.
Yeah.
And there's 2 reasons for that. One is that it's short term, and the second is they know you don't know what you're doing. So it's going to be expensive. It's going to be risk in their mind. You know, we've got to deal with a debt position. You know, but it's, you know, we've got 6-8 weeks to deal with it, and so we're in a pretty good place. You know, we had a management meeting on Monday. This is what we've got to do, and it's like, yeah, okay, let's go do it. And there's no stress about it. We know exactly what we need. We know the terms we can carry. We know what we've got to do to get it. Then we know what it's for, and we know why it's there. And we've got a P&L cash flow statement that shows we can actually carry it, no problem at all. And so you sit there and go, okay, that's a different conversation, because now it's not a stress conversation. It's a, okay, whereas previously when we did it, it was a stress conversation a year ago when we took that debt on. It was expensive, as we call it, sharky debt, you know. And sometimes you just got to play that game.
Yeah.
But you got to know you can survive it. You know, I've done it where I've not been able to survive it, and it's been traumatic. But you've got to, you know, you've got to be able to know how to do these things and how to make these things work for you. Because if you don't, then, you know, and every time you look at one of these numbers, whether you're common sizing your business and you're playing with a percentage of revenue on your materials or your labor, you know, or you're looking at your expense base in terms of what should my expense base be in relation to the industry norm, how much overhead should I be carrying, you know, those types of things, how much vehicle should I have, how much, whatever it is you're doing, if you know what those norms should be, you can track to those norms. Now you've got to see the information and move it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the business starts making money again. And then you start to have serious conversations about how big a check can I write myself. That's a great place to be, you know. And I remember,
Who am I going to buy? How am I going to buy them?
exactly, and where do I want to buy? And, you know, we're talking to these guys, you know, at the moment about buying them, and they're in a pressure position because they've got some short-term debt. And, you know, one of the offers I've done is just, let me just buy out the debt position for you as the acquisition price.
Yeah.
It's a powerful place to be because you know how to do it. And it's not a difficult conversation if you understand the finances. You've got it. And again, it's just, you know, don't expect to know the level 9 stuff day one. Just